Welcome to episode 116 of the Backlot 605 podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Casey Feldman. Joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Brian Mensing. Brian, can I offer you a thin wafer mint?
If it's anything like the one in this one, no. No, and doubly no.
No, not this time?
No, not this time.
I'm stuffed.
Ugh.
Oh, such a great scene. And you know what, Brian? We're talking about our final film in our Monty Python series, which is The Meaning of Life, where that quote comes from. And you know what? We're talking comedy this entire month for the month of January. Why not bring in one of our favorite comedians, one of Sioux Falls' best, the host of the Town Crier Podcast, Mr. Nathan Hults. Nathan, welcome back.
Oh, thank you so much. I love doing the show. I love it. I get in a fight with Brian every time. It's wonderful. I'm so excited. Excited.
Why do I have a feeling that's going to happen again?
I don't know. I think that's all on you. You're projecting at this point.
Oh, I'm projecting. Okay.
I've got nothing but love for both of you. I'm so excited to be here, guys.
Hey, we're glad to have you back. It's always a blast when we have you on. And before we get into our show, I want to talk about your show.
Yeah.
That you just started this past year. It's going on, a couple months now?
We're on episode 11. We just recorded episode 11. Well, that'll be releasing. We release every Tuesday, so the day before this came out will be episode 11. So
awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the show, what it's about, what you guys talk about?
Yeah, so me and my friend John Michaels, who is just the biggest sweetheart I know, we talk about how we are grown men that love to cry. We love it. We actually enjoy crying, and so we wanted to talk about how being that kind of person affects us. So we talk about our days, but more importantly, we talk about what made us cry each week. It's a lot of fun. It's funny, even though we're talking about crying and sad stuff. It's also serious. We talk about real issues. Both of us are 33 white men. So
good reason to cry.
Yeah. So we got to search for stuff. Oh, thank you, darling. We're very excited to kind of do it. John is one of the funniest human beings I know, so it's good.
Yeah,
it's basically two dudes who like to cry. That's what it is.
If that doesn't sell the show, I don't know what would.
I was gonna say, is that the tagline? Just two dudes that like to cry?
Yeah, two dudes that like to cry.
Yeah.
Yep. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Is that's available pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts? I'm sure the huge.
Except for YouTube, we got to start doing that YouTube thing.
I've heard people like that YouTube thing.
You guys are crushing it on the YouTube stuff. I appreciate it.
It's fun.
You gotta do it like this. I think it'd work really well for you, especially if you cry on video too.
Hey, we've only a couple times we've cried on video, but I'm a little worried about video just because I don't know. I'm never like camera ready when we're doing it. You know, I'm always.
Have you seen me?
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't get a chance to do my makeup today.
What's your excuse in normal life?
Oh, I have none.
I
have none.
I love you. I'm kidding.
All right, let's get on to our that we usually do here on the show. Let's jump into it. Let's jump into the box office results for this week. Not much has changed since last week. Mr. Liam Neeson's is kicking ass once again in the top of the box office. Liam Neeson, number one this week again. The Marksman. I don't know. Doesn't matter. No one saw this movie. $2.3
million worth of people saw this movie.
I guess that's a lot of senior citizens that finally got their vaccine. They're like, what are we going to do to go out now that we have our vaccine? Let's go watch the new Liam Neeson movie.
This is what, Taken 49, Taken 50 kind of, but set in the West or something like that.
A rancher in Arizona border becomes an unlikely defender of a young Mexican boy desperately fleeing the cartel assassins who pursued him into the U.S.
So a Liam Neeson plot.
So it's like Taken, this time running.
Right?
Taken on a horse.
Taken, this time with Mexico.
It's like the last Rambo movie. It's Rambo, but in Mexico.
We couldn't afford Denzel Washington.
He's getting to the point where he's running out of ideas to be like taken on an airplane, taken on a train, taken on a Zamboni. Then now he's got to taken to different countries.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think Liam Neeson's is a national treasure, but he has not done a good movie in a while.
He's as old as most of our national treasures.
That's also fair.
The good thing is we'll be able to talk a little bit about that coming up.
Yeah, we'll talk about Mr. Neeson's in the news section too. Let's jump to number 2 though. The Croods in New Age still kicking ass, taking names. Nick Cage can't get enough of that man. $1.82 million. Number 2 still going. This came out, I believe, right before Thanksgiving, and it's still just chugging along. It's on VOD. I'm like, this movie will be on Blu-ray and it'll still be number 2 at the box office.
Right. You're not wrong, because I would imagine that the release for this is probably not that far around the corner.
Yeah,
maybe that's when it'll start puttering out. Maybe.
Speaking of a movie that is puttering out, Wonder Woman 1984, $1.6 million, continues to drop in the box office, going from the mighty 1 spot a few weeks ago down to number 3, just about a little over $1.5 million for this DC sequel.
So, quick question: when you were updating the numbers here for last week, where was Wonder Woman last week?
Number 3,
dollar wise.
Oh, I would have to go back and look. I'm not. It was a little more than this.
A little bit more than that, because this is that week I was talking about last week, where we're right on the heels of it leaving HBO Max. So the fact that it is just a little bit less than last week, if that's the case, seems to be right on par. But I wonder if next week, if there will be an uptick, because there will be no more HBO Max to be able to watch it until it comes out on video. So I'm curious as to see what would happen.
It's leaving HBO Max? I didn't realize that.
So the whole dual release thing that HBO / Warner Brothers is doing is only for a 30-day window. Then at that point, it's going to come off the streaming service, but still be available theatrically. So
Gotcha.
this will be the first movie that's going to be part of that hybrid theory that Warner Brothers is currently doing right now.
Oh no, I got to watch it before it leaves. Then
I think you have what do we got? One day yet?
Yeah, something like that. 1, maybe 2 days there, Nate.
Yeah. You don't need to watch it, Nathan.
I really like Wonder Woman, and a lot of times when people hate on like these movies, I'm the one champion of it.
You're the devil's advocate.
I like movies, so if it has to be a really bad movie for me to not be like really stoked about it, you know.
No, just watch half of what Casey does. You'll find plenty.
Yeah, watch it for Pedro Pascal. He
yes, very much so.
He's really great in it. Number 4, moving up from number 5 last week, is Monster Hunter. 820,000, just narrowing out our number 5, which is News of the World, 810,000. So the two flip-flops, not much of a difference between the two, less than $10,000. Again, these are numbers I think we're going to continue to expect until we actually get a big movie back into theaters again, which might be a while.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the part where they keep moving and shuffling stuff around again?
Yeah, and every new release that is scheduled to come out is an HBO dual release. So we'll see how 2021 goes.
Right. Yeah.
So should we kind of jump into some more of that HBO Max kind of stuff that we were talking about before with Wonder Woman, how it is doing? Let's talk about another HBO Max movie coming up in the news.
The news? Oh, you mean that wonderful news that is I haven't even watched this yet, and I actually purposely have not watched this yet, but we finally got the trailer for Godzilla versus Kong. Because I don't think this is the next one on the docket for the dual release for Warner Brothers. I think
the next one we'll talk about is coming soon.
Oh yeah. But I really enjoyed Kong, the Skull Island. I struggled with King of Monsters, and I've never even finished it. I probably should and whatnot. This is one of those kind of movies where I think I want to actually avoid the trailer and go in it completely blind. So, but we got our first look at this film, which is good. At least to hopefully sees that things are progressing for Hollywood-ish.
Yeah, I think they'll probably stick with maybe one, maybe two trailers. I think trailers will be a very different thing going forward in 2021 with these dual releases, especially Netflix. They drop their trailer 2 weeks or a week before the damn movie comes out, so we only get the one. I think trailers will start to go in that route. We'll get one, maybe two, and then some TV spots, not like 5 or 6 trailers. But I think that part of that though is that they're afraid of dropping trailers in the instance that they might have to move the release date again, which I am okay with. We need less trailers. Just drop one freaking trailer for a movie.
At this point, I completely disagree with you. I completely disagree with you. The trailer hype is such. It's one of my favorite parts about Hollywood. Right? Is you watch the trailer progression, and then when you watch the movie, it's like, oh, I think I've seen all this, but they give you. I love. Excuse me. My favorite part is when they send you a misnomer trailer, right? Like Marvel's really good at this. They'll give you scenes that don't even exist in the movie.
Or modified scenes.
Yeah. So like I love trailers. I actually almost prefer most trailers to movies. Like
that would be because some trailers, all the good stuff is in the trailer.
That's not even it. I love anticipation. I think that's the best part about going to see a movie. So like anticipation, I get to watch. I get to commit to a movie without actually committing to a movie. You know, watching a trailer, it's like, when I watch that, that's my favorite part is like going through the flick, you know, like flicking through. It's like Tinder for movies is what it is. And I love it. Give me more trailers. That's what I'm trying to say.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
I definitely agree with the hype factor. Like this trailer here, the Godzilla versus Kong one, is the first time in a very long time where I'm like sitting there like shaking, like, okay, give me this movie right now. And like when I get excited for a movie, when I sit in my seat to watch the movie, I can't keep my feet from shaking. Yeah. That's going to be this movie because I'm stoked for Godzilla versus Kong. This trailer feels like just a straight up hype video that you'd have before a big Tyson match or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what this trailer feels like. And I mean,
Connor versus Tyson, Kong versus Godzilla,
the fight of the century. And the movie looks great.
James Duplass put on a bunch of weight for this movie.
I think we're already picking sides. I've been hearing a lot of chatter, not only in our kind of backlot group, but on the internet as well. Everybody's starting to pick sides. Who you gonna pick, Godzilla or Kong? This feels like Freddy versus Jason back in 2003. Everybody was picking sides then, and I like that. I like that big fight feel.
Here's hoping this is going to be more Freddy versus Jason than Batman versus Superman.
Yes.
I mean, this is a Warner Brothers thing, so they can always screw it up.
I really hope there's betting in Vegas.
There has to be, right?
Oh, I gotta imagine there's got to be something that's going on, even like on a low level, like, you know.
Yeah, I just feel like no spoilers are being leaked. You know, not they cut two edits, you know, and like each theater has a different edit, so you get to bet in the theater whether Godzilla or King Kong's gonna win, or if it's the Mothra people that you kind of get a little clip of.
It's going full Clue with the multiple endings. I like.
Oh my god, that would be so great! I miss that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
On a side note here, if they were ever to remake Clue, I would want them to do Clue like they did originally back in the 80s and give multiple endings in the theater so you don't even know what ending you're going to get at the theater.
And now it's easier than ever to do that. I don't understand why another movie hasn't tried to pull that trigger.
Right.
Seems super easy to just edit your movie with a different ending, send that one to one theater, another one to another theater, another one to a different theater, and I don't know. I think that would be a lot of fun. This movie would be perfect for that. I have 2 questions before we move on, though.
Okay.
Who you got to win? And who is going to end up being the guy that they fight? Because, of course, they will team up and fight something.
My answer is I have no idea.
For either?
But
Who do you got in the fight between the two?
Oh, that's just it. Honestly, I don't know. Just because I kind of want to go into this, go into this thing completely blind and just see how it even, erupts. I mean, if they go based on how they've perceived them in the past in regards to size, Godzilla is literally like 10 times the size of Kong.
They're about the same size in the trailer.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Then Kong got bigger, or
Kong
Godzilla
got a lot
smaller.
bigger. He got some of that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ooze put in him.
I guess so.
He's been juicing.
He's been juiced. Nate, who do you got for this? Who's your guy?
All right. I think without any information, I'd always pick Godzilla, right? Dude can breathe fire, stuff like that. Watching this trailer, I'm thinking Kong because he has the what he fell in love with a child. You know what I mean? Like he has something to fight for.
The humans are on his side, it feels
yeah. So like I'm going Kong just based on story plots that I've gotten from the trailer. And who do they team up against? I hate to say it, mechanized Donald Trump.
Damn it.
I think the movie was written when he still was going to win the re-election. I think that's what's going to happen.
It's gonna be Mecha Godzilla with a bad toupee.
You're all losers. Godzilla, he's a loser. Kong, you're a loser. Would watch. I've got
the best missiles. I've got the best missiles. I am Mecha Donald Trump. We're gonna build a wall. It's gonna be an amazing wall. We're gonna keep Godzilla on that wall. We're gonna keep Kong on that wall.
I'm huge. Yeah, I'm going for Godzilla, but I do hope Mecha Donald Trump shows up in this movie.
Is that the thing where you're like, I didn't know I needed that, but I need it now?
Yeah. I was going to go with the straightforward Mecha Godzilla, but no, I'm like, nah, Mecha Donald Trump would be a much better opponent for these two to kick the shit out of.
Yeah, the U.S. military was ran by a guy who wanted a robot that looked like himself. So I think the fact of the matter is, they had spare parts from that. It's like, wow, we'll just shoot it in a movie.
Right.
We can't use it anymore. He's not the president. Let's just put it in the movie.
Man, this did not work out as planned. All right. So next little tidbit of news that we got. I mean, other than the fact that Warner Brothers is shifting their stuff around yet again, but that's not expected. Is speaking of the marksman, Mr. Liam Neeson has been approached by Seth MacFarlane to star in a Naked Gun reboot. I want to see the funny side of Liam Neeson because I do think that he could pull it off. And obviously these guys have a working relationship thanks to A Million Ways to Die in the West. Liam Neeson wasn't the bad part about that movie, though it was okay. I know that Casey thinks it's a dumpster fire.
It's a shitstorm of a movie.
But I mean, the idea of Liam Neeson doing Naked Gun, I think is a good fit. Maybe not necessarily being done by Seth MacFarlane, but I do kind of now want to see Liam Neeson's Naked Gun. Thoughts?
I don't know. I don't think we need a new boot. I don't think we need a reissue.
But if we had to have, if we ended up getting one.
I'd like to see Liam Neeson in a movie like that movie. I would not like to see Liam Neeson in that movie.
Okay.
I would also like to see a Seth MacFarlane, Liam Neeson original property funny movie. I would like that. I have no interest in a rebooted comedy. Right? Reboot an action series. Yes, please do. Reboot a superhero. Yes. I do not need to see a reboot of Dumb and Dumber. I don't need rehashed jokes. I don't need rehashed jokes. I don't need updated jokes. The jokes were freaking funny. The only thing we need to update is Mel Brooks. That's the only thing, right? That maybe. I don't want a reboot of comedy. Comedy should exist when it was made. Seth MacFarlane is doing the devil's work.
So I guess just for the sake of curiosity, since you bring him up, why specifically Mel Brooks?
Mel Brooks movies are fantastic in story, but have dated references.
You
right?
think?
So,
Blazing Saddles isn't an example of that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Spaceballs. I just watched the other day, and it's like, if I didn't get the references, the movie would still be good, right? But with updated references, I don't even want you to reshoot the movie. I literally just want you to overdub decent references. Yeah, no, it's a, I don't know. I just don't. I'm sick of reboots. I want give a filmmaker the property that he wants to do. You know what I mean? Like let's make the next Naked Gun, not let's remake Naked Gun. You know what I mean?
It's a lot of the studios who are afraid to put in the possibility of a failure when they know they have a property that they can attract people to. No,
I understand. I understand it's on us.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably a combination of the both, because how many of these, like, say, for the sake of like Naked Gun when it was made, and some of these other movies that were original properties at the time.
Yeah,
there's a lot of those studios who are the studios themselves are afraid to put that out there, so they just rely on remakes and sequels and stuff like that. And it's just like, I completely agree with you that
it's our fault too, because we aren't going to original movies like we used to, right?
Right.
I haven't paid to see a movie that wasn't a comic book in a long time. Like I'm watching original content all the time on Netflix and Hulu and all that kind of stuff. But going to a movie theater at spending $15 a time, that's without popcorn, without drinks, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I want to make sure I'm getting a good one, right? But I think if we had less reboot options and more just original content that we were excited to see, you know what I mean? Like give me more Wes Anderson, give me a new Wes Anderson, give me an Owen Wilson directorial debut. I don't give a shit. Like give me something I can kind of, you know what I mean? I want the movie star, not a movie franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that makes sense. Give me a Liam Neeson funny movie. Yes, please do that, but don't call it the same thing. I watched that High Fidelity remake with what's her name?
There was a High Fidelity remake?
Yeah, there was a High Fidelity series on Hulu. It's fantastic, and it stars Zoe Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz's daughter.
Okay.
And in the titular role, but like, it's such a good television show, but people hated it because it was not like the original content. If they would have named it anything else,
nobody would have cared.
It would have been
in terms of
the best thing ever. But they named it High Fidelity, and they brought in like references to the original, right? Where this thing's close, but it's been updated and more like gender neutral kind of stuff. So we don't like it. You know what I mean? But it was such a good show. But no one was talking about it because everyone's like, wow, it's not High Fidelity, and High Fidelity should have John Cusack and blah, 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 blah. If it had nothing to do with High Fidelity, this show would be The Queen's Gambit. This would be the next, whatever, right? But it was on Hulu, and it had a name of a property that only a few people even know about.
So since I have you here, Nathan, this is a question I constantly ask myself, and I'll ask other people too. And I want to ask you, as a comedian and a comedy movie fan, I don't care about this Naked Gun thing, first of all, and like Nate said, let Liam Neeson and Seth MacFarlane do a action comedy together, not named Naked Gun, and they would probably crush it. I don't think Seth's humor is the same as Naked Gun humor. It's not the same type of humor. Nor do I want to see him try to do that.
Yeah.
But as far as comedy goes, when is the last great comedy we've got, and why don't we get more great comedies, especially for comedy stars? I feel like comedy stars are on TV now and not in the movies. And I wonder, you might not know the answer, but what is your thoughts on that? It's like, why don't we have more comedy movie stars?
Or comedy action for the sake of Naked Gun, even.
I think we're still seeing that, right? What was the Adam Driver sort of turning into that?
Well,
right?
with like Logan Lucky.
Yeah, like Logan Lucky. Like
Dead Don't Die.
We're seeing movie stars cross over into comedy.
Yeah.
We're seeing talented movie stars that can also do comedy, and those are our comedy, gods. But then it's the supporting characters that really make those movies. And the problem is there's such a wealth of supporting characters right now. Like fat, white, bald dudes are having their time in Hollywood, right? If you have some sort of underground like following, you're going to be in this quirky rom-com movie that is fantastic. But I think Rebel Wilson has come out with some really good stuff, like that rom-com, like self-aware one. Is it
the Adam Devine one?
No,
not that one.
Maybe it was Adam Devine.
No, isn't it? I think I forget the name of it, but you're talking about the one where they're basically spoofing and making fun of rom-coms in the process.
Yeah. It's like, oh God, not another like. Sorry, I'm searching it right now.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about. That they were basically poking
Isn't
fun.
it romantic? Is what it's called.
Yep, I found it just as you did.
Jojo Rabbit was. I mean, we're seeing a lot of comedy directors like Edgar Wright, Tahiti Watiti. I always say it wrong. I don't know how to say it. I'm a big fan that is also super white.
I like your name, your way of pronouncing his name.
Taika
Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
I feel so bad because I've been a big fan since before with his Flight of the Conchords stuff. Mm-hmm. So like when his directing stuff like that. But Jojo Rabbit was such a phenomenal hit, right? But you're seeing him also do Marvel movies, like some of the best Marvel movies from a dying franchise within the Marvel universe. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, so that's where we're seeing comedy go. We're seeing these comedian directors and producers and stuff like that cross over into mainstream. I mean, like, look at the Russos. They are known for Community, right? Arrested Development, Community, and then
Yumi and Dupree.
Then all of a sudden they're the Avengers people. You know what I mean? Like they've done probably the most significant cinema achievements in the last 10 years, 15. What do we have? 15 years?
Yeah.
Like they're the ones who did that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like Knives Out, right? We saw some comedy in that, but it was also like a thriller. And there's just a lot happening where we're seeing comedy get mixed into this other world. Because people aren't wanting a Dumb and Dumber. We don't.
We need sophisticated comedy.
No, it's not even that. It's just not even that. It's like Dumb and Dumber would never play like it did before because we've lost our innocence as a human race. Like there's just not enough. Like I don't know. Maybe as me personally, I can't laugh like I used to at that stuff. You know what I mean? Just because I don't know. It needs to be grounded a little bit. But we're seeing that absurdist come through in series like So I Think We Should Leave. I always forget these. They're on Netflix. But like Big Mama Nancy's House. I'm sounding like a complete idiot, but
Auntie Donna's Big Old House of Fun.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, that show.
The other absurdist comedy. So we're seeing these absurdist comedies, but they're going to Adult Swim. They're going to that stuff. They found a better venue essentially for it.
Yeah. I guess all I'm getting at is I miss those dumb comedies. I miss comedy stars. It feels like Sandler is kind of the last guy hanging on to that thread because it feels like everybody else is gone. I'm kind of done with comedies now. Like Jim Carrey, I'm done with comedies. Will Ferrell is hit and miss, but
Sherlock Holmes sucked.
Yeah, I immediately think of Jordan Peele and Seth Rogen. You know, where they're really getting into the dramatic and or horror. I mean, Danny McBride getting into the Halloween series and whatnot. I mean, Danny McBride is still doing comedy and whatnot, but he's literally dipping his toes in both ends to the point where it's like you wonder how long he's going to stay in comedy because he has so an untapped, means of going someplace else too.
Yeah, but he's making so much money on that HBO stuff that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Which one?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like all of them, like vice president or vice principals. What's that? The holy one.
The Rhinestone one.
Yeah, the Rhinestone family. Those were so good. Mm-hmm. Southbound and Down. I mean, those are dorm room DVD. Classics. Mm-hmm. Like it's gonna be next. It's gonna be next to the Dave Chappelle box set. Is gonna be Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Should we move on to other Hollywood sacrilege, Brian?
Yeah, maybe a little bit here. I'm not quite sure how I feel.
You wound me up. You wound me up, and I just went.
Well, I'll start this here before I bring it up here for you, Nathan. What's your thoughts on Willy Wonka?
For it.
Because they're talking about doing like a prequel for Willy Wonka origin with potentially Tom Holland and or Timothée Chalamet to be eyed as Willy Wonka. And granted, I mean, you're talking about two totally different kinds of... the only thing I think of these are European actors. But they are like two totally different kinds of people. And I'm trying to figure out...
Pretty sure Timothée Chalamet is American.
Pretty sure. Are you sure?
He has a very American accent.
I could have swore he was
He's
not.
from Brooklyn. We just watched the SNL.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
yeah?
from New York.
Wow. Okay. My bad.
He just has a fancy last name is all.
Maybe that's it. He just sounds like
he's from the rich part of New York, but if that's
okay, then my bad. Yeah.
It's basically a different country.
They had a piano in his house. So you know what I mean? Like in New York. Yeah. So that's...
Oh, if your house is big enough to have a piano in it in New York, then you must be coming for money, right?
Yeah, I mean, upper middle class, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I look at this and like, okay, depending on who you would potentially out of these two particular people, how do you, the picture or image that I saw was like, Tom Holland being the Gene Hackman version, Timothée Chalamet being like the Johnny Depp version, which
Gene Wilder. But I would watch a Gene Hackman version of Willy Wonka.
My bad. Yes. Oh,
I love that. Yeah.
Yes.
Very, very militant Willy Wonka.
Maybe that was a subconscious request I didn't even know I needed. Yes, right. Gene Wilder. Excuse me. I don't know if and this kind of plays into the whole like reboot and everything like that. Granted, we got a little bit of an origin out of the Tim Burton, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for the sake of Willy Wonka. I mean, really, do we even need why do we even need this basically? Like, I don't even see why we even need to have a Willy Wonka prequel or whatever the case is, other than the fact that, again, it's like the Naked Gun thing. They're just like, well, we got nothing else because we can't think of any original ideas. So what properties can we bring people in with? So I don't feel this is necessary.
This feels to me like a trademark keeper, right? I want to keep the rights to the property.
Willy Wonka, yeah.
So like 10 years from the road, I think that's what this is. In my opinion, like it feels like hey, we need to do something with this property, otherwise it becomes domain. Like it comes,
it would revert back.
Yeah. So like, I think, here's the thing. I'm always excited about a Roald Dahl, property. Like they're such fun books. My daughter is now kind of just getting into them, so we're kind of rereading a few, and they're dark and scary. I'm excited for the witches. I'm not mad about this. I'm not super enthused about it either. I'm hoping it's PG so I can take my daughter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't think they would go full Roald Dahl, that type of scary for kids in the movies. I think they'll keep it definitely PG-13, possibly. I mean,
yeah, I don't need a PG-13 movie for Willy Wonka because I want to take my daughter's 2. You know what I mean? So like, very rarely is she going to go anything PG. We need a G movie. So if they keep it PG, I'm excited. If it throws PG-13, I probably won't see it for 10 years.
Well, if at least history at least works into your favor, the Johnny Depp Tim Burton was PG. So because immediately the first thing I thought is that if it would probably stay in line with whatever the Tim Burton one was in terms of the rating aspect of it. And obviously we can't really gauge it off of the Gene Wilder one because that was before PG-13, if I remember correctly.
Man, that's an R-rated movie. He murdered those kids. We never saw them get out of the factory.
Who's set for directing?
I don't know
if they've even this is the first I've even heard of this even coming out to even be a thing.
We talked about it like last week or 2 weeks ago.
Did we?
Yeah.
Yeah. That shows how much I was paying attention and want this so much that I completely forgot if we did.
I think, again, Nate, you probably hit the nail on the head. This is probably them saying, all right, our rights are going to revert in 2 years. How do we get something out before the rights revert back or whatever? How do we keep our rights for the Willy Wonka name?
This also feels a little bit like let's test the waters. Let's release a press release about like who we'd want to see or whatever, and then people can gauge. I bet neither of these guys say yes to the role, and then we end up with one of the Stranger Things characters.
No.
You make mention that like neither one of these would be potentially interested, but I want to flip that a little bit and say, Willy Wonka is that iconic character that we've had for so many years since Gene Wilder. That would be potentially one of those things that either one of these guys, especially being a young actor that they are, being like, hey, that I could be attached to such an iconic name that I think would at least and go, hey, let me at least look at a script. Let me find out, as opposed to just being like, oh no, that was just completely just a PR stunt.
Do you guys think they have a script?
No. I think like Nathan said here, I think this is surely I think this is we're testing the waters to see what people think.
Yeah.
I mean, the route I would go, if you're going to go live action, I wouldn't go with these two guys because they're up for every young kind of role right now. I would go something, I mean, we talked about it in our group chat. I would go with like Donald Glover or Lakeith Stanfield. Go very different with Willy Wonka. Have that version of Willy Wonka if you're going to do that. But again, if you have either of those guys, that probably goes into that PG-13 area, what you would do with the Willy Wonka origin. But I'm like, if this is for keeping the rights, why not do an animated Willy Wonka movie or an animated series?
And who's to say that, this is all we really have? Maybe that's what we end up getting.
I would be fine with that because then you're at least detaching yourself from the Gene Wilder one and from the abomination that was the Tim Burton one, and you're doing something completely different this time.
Abomination?
It's a horrible movie.
You remember that part, Nathan, where I said is, if you want to talk about somebody who doesn't quite have their gears correct on certain what's good and what's bad, it's that guy.
You just pointed to yourself, but yes.
There we go. How about that?
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a horrible movie, and I've spewed it many times on this show, my hatred for it. But
it's okay. That's okay. You can feel that way.
Yeah,
I think you'd be wrong.
Me and Nathan will fight on this one. You and Brian are teaming up this time.
Listen, I'm not interested in fighting for it, but I don't understand the giant hate. Right? I don't get me wrong. I'm not going 10 rounds. I'm going like, I'm doing like grown men fight at a bar fight. It's just like, what? You say something? You say something? Did you say something? No? All right. Sorry, brother.
Cool. Cool. What you drinking? Yeah, that's how I would go. Get an animated version of Willy Wonka. Then you're at least kind of getting every live action version out of the way and maybe doing something very different.
Well, and a good thing about an animated one though too is that at that point you can get somebody who has the correct voice for it. So maybe Timothée Chalamet, for example, has the perfect voice for it, but then they can make him look like a Gene Wilder-esque looking version of Willy Wonka. So, I almost picture it as almost being like a Hotel Transylvania like art style for like animated film. I think would work. I would think would work good for that.
Yeah, give me Gilbert Gottfried voicing Willy Wonka in the movie. Why not?
Oh my God.
Let's move on. Coming soon. Let's run through these pretty quick. I don't know about you guys. I'm not excited about some of these coming out, but you know what? We'll throw them out there. We'll see what you guys think. First up, we talked about another HBO Max dual theatrical and HBO Max release. This comes out January 29th. It is The Little Things, starring Denzel. Is this the Denzel one?
Denzel, Rami Malek, and
Jared
Leto.
That guy.
Yeah. And this totally looks like this is something that he was working on while he was working on Morbius, because he totally has the hair for it right now. I don't know. I'm intrigued, but then again, everybody that is in this movie, I genuinely like. Obviously, Jared Leto, it has been as of recently been hit or miss and whatnot, especially with his Warner Brothers stuff. But I really like Rami Malek. I really like Denzel Washington. I am intrigued by this one here because I think there's more to this movie than what's being led on into the trailer, or at least what's being hinted on in the trailer. So I look forward to seeing this here in the next few days.
Is it coming out in like 2 days? Like a few days?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 29th of January.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And one I've actually, the big thing is if I'm seeing like TV ads for this or YouTube ads, it means it's an actual, like the studio is putting money towards marketing for this movie. So I have seen a couple of those trailers, but I don't know. I do think that one of the reasons why Warner Brothers is doing that is because this is one of those movies that was semi getting fallout because of the dual release thing, because of Denzel's contract. Like Denzel was one of those ones where they had to do a lot of quick skirting around to be able to make sure that his contract was fulfilled because of how his contracts are written. So I'm sorry, Denzel, though. This feels like a January release. Like this feels like this is a studio dump movie. And I think HBO Max is this feels like a proper streaming release. Like you get Denzel, Leto, Rami Malek in this kind of crime thriller movie. Looks like journeyman director. You have John Lee Hancock, who did The Blind Side, Saving Mr. Banks, and The Rookie, which are all PG-13 movies. So it seems strange he's jumping into a crime thriller with Denzel and Jared Leto, but we'll see how it turns out. I don't know.
Highwayman, though, he did The Highwayman. That's on my queue, and that looks really good. And that's a
Costner, Woody Harrelson, right? Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like it's a crime movie. It's too old. You know what I mean? So it's literally in his repertoire recently. His most recent movie was that. You know what I mean?
I think it's worth a shot since it's on HBO Max. I'm already paying for it. It might be worth a Friday night watch or something.
Yeah, it's not like it's really costing anything more than what you're already paying for.
Yeah.
It reminds me very much of like David Fincher's Zodiac, so I'm kind of excited about it. Like I got a very Zodiac vibe. Mm-hmm. And like classic cars and stuff like that. I think there's some intrigue that I'm excited about. I won't probably watch it for a while because my wife will be terrified of it.
Well, you'll have 30 days, so you'll have until the end of February.
Yeah, I'm probably second release is what I'm saying.
Next up on, we're going to continue our streaming here. This is an Apple TV Plus. We haven't seen that name pop up in a very long time.
Oh, I love Apple TV. Go ahead.
January 29th, Justin Timberlake's Palmer, which we talked about back when the trailer first dropped on this show. JT going in, playing an ex-con who just wrapped up a 12-year stint in prison. He ends up taking care of his meth addict neighbor's 8-year-old boy. So this is kind of a coming of age. Guy has to right his wrongs of his past and teach the younger generation a lesson. JT in Palmer.
This is one of those ones where, like, this is the first movie that Justin Timberlake has made that hasn't been a Trolls movie in the last few years and whatnot. And I think this looks like a good movie for him to kind of springboard back in front of the camera. I genuinely think this movie looks absolutely great. And, I'm with Nathan. I have Apple TV Plus, and I will definitely watch this movie. I genuinely think this is one of those ones that just proves that Justin Timberlake is the good dramatic actor that some people don't realize he really is as good as he is.
Yeah. This is a real alpha dog release. I'm excited about it.
I like the fact you made that reference. I'm just saying that is one of those underappreciated movies out there is Alpha Dog.
I also appreciate it's more of a southern, Kentucky. It's almost like it's a Southland tale.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to be an internet troll about this. So
yeah, I don't have Apple TV Plus. I don't own Apple products, so this is a movie I will probably never watch just because it'll be stuck on Apple forever. And I do want to see this movie. I'm excited about it. I've gushed about Justin Timberlake and my man crush on him on the show many, many times, and seeing him go kind of this darker, dramatic way, I would love to watch, but it's on Apple. But I hope
cry me a river, okay? Come on.
I can't top that. That's a great reference. You know what? Let's.
This is why we have Nathan on there. He can get them right off the cuff right there like that.
In time, I might watch this movie.
Well, let's let this topic go bye. We can go on to the next topic. No strings attached.
Is the next topic?
He is really a celebrity, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, let's move on. Let's get some Denzel puns in this one, Nate. Next up, we have Remember the Titans hitting theaters, back for its re-release here as we head into February. Black History Month is just around the corner for February. Disney's rolling out their 2-week long re-release for Remember the Titans, the Disney football sports classic.
Yeah. Yep.
You say that, I'm like, Disney sports classic. I'm like, I've never seen this.
What? This is actually a really good movie. This is actually really good.
You've never seen Remember the Titans?
Never seen this movie.
Oh my god.
This would be a first time watch for me.
How do you not have that? I have too much white guilt in my life to not see these movies. Like,
and it's not. It's literally a matter of the instance of it's a movie I've wanted to see. It's just I've never gotten around to it. I pride myself on being like the movie nerd that I am until I met Casey and everybody else has been a part of our little group and realized exactly how out of touch I was in certain things.
The thing is, I saw this movie by myself when it came out in 2000, right? So that I was 7th grade. I went with like a couple friends to the movie theater in Hutchinson, Minnesota. And then a week later, one of our teachers in school saw the movie and convinced the principal and the school board to bring the entire school to go see that movie, right? Like it was mandatory watching.
Wow.
For the school. So our whole school went to the theatrical, right? And then every year since, we'd have to watch it in school. You know what I mean? It was like a history class substitute teacher movie.
Wow.
So I've seen this thing a lot of times. I own it on DVD, but when it comes up on Disney Plus every once in a while, I'll just be like, I could watch this again. It's a good movie.
That's my history with it too. We watched it every year in school. I think we rented out a theater one time and went and watched it as a class or some church get together. We rented out a theater and watched it. Yeah, this was a constant watch in elementary through middle school, all the way up to high school even. And it is a great movie too. I think Denzel is really great in this movie. I always forget it is a Disney movie because it does not feel like a Disney sports movie.
Well,
it's not Mighty Ducks, Brian.
It is a Disney movie because it's historically inaccurate. That's very Disney-like.
Yeah.
That early, Casey, you make the comment that it's no Mighty Ducks and whatnot, but if you really look at, like, especially the couple of sports movies, we're talking early 2000s from Disney, though, they didn't feel like Disney movies because the first thing I think of is Miracle. Miracle does not feel like a Disney movie, but it's totally a great, hockey movie. If you will, Kurt Russell, coming back again to the Disney frame, but even me, when I was looking at other stuff up here, I completely forgot Miracle was even a Disney movie because it doesn't feel like one. It doesn't feel like the Mighty Ducks.
But they have got a really long tradition of good sports movie. I mean, The Greatest Game Ever Played with Shia LaBeouf. They've got Miracle. They've got Cool Runnings. They've got Heavyweights is technically a sports movie if you look at the same kind of tradition. They've got the Mighty Ducks franchise. They've got
what was that Kevin Costner track movie that came out a few years ago?
Yeah. They've got those.
That was really good.
They have, and then like some of their other subsidiaries, like who originally released, was it United Artists is also like they have a couple offshoot companies that do sports movies a lot. Like I think Tin Cup is on one of those that's kind of like under their umbrella, like United Arts. So like they're not strangers to good sports movies.
Yeah. And this is one of their best.
Oh,
Brian,
Eddie the Eagle, right?
Yeah.
That was so good. That's being that's being put out by them right now, distributed.
Yeah. Eddie the Eagle will be another one of those ones where it's like, I want to see that, and then I still have yet to get around to it.
It's on Disney Plus, man. It's killer.
It's a good movie.
Hugh Jackman's best film since Wolverine.
Wow.
Or Logan, excuse me.
Better answer.
All right, let's go to our next re-release back in theaters. This is the James Bond classic, Dr. No, in theaters for a 2-night only Fathom event screening, January 31 and February 1st. 2 nights only, Dr. No, back in theaters.
Dr. Nope, I'm not going. This was when I was trying to get through my Bond watch and whatnot, and just trying to get through those first couple of Bond movies was really tough. And this is because Dr. No is the second one, if I remember correctly. And or is it the first one?
It's the first one. From Russia with Love, it's the second one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is okay. So if this is the first one, this is the one where the very beginning of I couldn't even understand what kind of movie we had because we had 3 different songs just in the intro. Yeah.
I'll admit, Dr. No is a rough one to start off with.
It is very rough.
If people are going to rewatch it, I would say start with From Russia with Love and get to Goldfinger, and then you're really kicking into gear after that. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to rush out to watch. I've never seen it in the theater, but it's like, again, I've said this before on the show. I'm not excited to go out to the Cinemark anymore, but if the State Theater played Dr. No, I would be more inclined to go watch it in that setting.
I was at a physical, and my doctor said, asked me, is it worth getting COVID to go see this reissue, like this re-release? And I said, Doctor, no.
Let's move on. I don't know how to go past that.
I just love the fact that Nathan just stops. Like he's like, punchline, and I'm just going to be quiet.
Doctor, no.
Doctor, no.
No.
Speaking of the Sioux Falls State Theater, this is their titles for this upcoming weekend. Couple classics, couple newer releases in there as well. First up, we had the Bill Murray comedy classic, Groundhog Day. We do have the 90s Richard Linklater coming of age comedy, Dazed and Confused, the Netflix original movie, Roma, and for some reason, The Greatest Showman.
For some reason? Are you kidding me?
Because for some reason, people love Hugh Jackman.
I just listened to some of the music on that on another Sioux Falls podcast, the Midtown Coffee show that I was on, and they literally did a song from The Greatest Showman. Do you guys? Let me be clear. Do you guys not like musicals? Is that what's happening?
No. I actually really do enjoy musicals. This is just one of those ones where I just have not had the opportunity to again see. Unfortunately,
Sure.
I actually do want to because I am a fan of Hugh Jackman. And even for the sake of Spider-Man, Zendaya, for example, So no, this is just one of those ones that I just have not had the opportunity. I can't give crap for it actually.
Casey? Do you?
I love musicals. This one just didn't work for me.
Okay, I have yet to see. I started it, and my daughter lost interest, so I haven't finished it. But I'm excited to see it, and so I could see it. Also, I feel like this would be a really good one to see in an old time theater like the State Theater. Mm-hmm. I think this is like a really good match for the State Theater.
I would agree with that. I think the showmanship side of it.
Yeah, I think that would be a really cool, like a 1930s. Theater to see a early 1900s movie basically.
Right.
Yeah, the one I'm gonna rush out to see is Dazed and Confused. It's one of my favorite movies ever. To hear that incredible soundtrack in the State Theater with the booming speakers is perfect. It's one of my favorites. High school movies, one of my favorite coming of age movies.
I think they just need to play Groundhog Day on everything on loop and just see if anybody notices.
That'd be pretty hilarious. With me with the State Theater, I'm starting to pick and choose because I want to go to everything, can't go to everything every week.
Right.
And for me, like some of the comedies I grew up watching on TV, for some reason, always feel more special to me on TV. But I don't know. But Dazed and Confused feels like one, like with that soundtrack, it's more inclined to go watch it. And Roma, I would love to watch in the theater. I watched it on Netflix when it came out, and it's
what is that one? I can't remember that one at all.
That's the black and white Italian
Alfonso Cuarón.
Okay.
Lost a Green Book. That's right.
Yeah,
that was the Green Book runner up there. Jeez. Roma is an incredible movie. I would love to see that. That is a movie beckoning to be seen on a big screen.
Right.
So I'm glad they're getting some Netflix titles on. Pretty much every week, it feels like they have a Netflix title, whether new or older, on their.
This is actually one thing I'm really liking about the State being out, as well as now with the way the Western Mall the West Mall 7 is doing their theatrical their releases as well, because now we actually have multiple theaters in town that will actually play these movies that are streaming options as well. Like we've got Apple TV Plus movies at the West Mall. We're getting Roma. We gotten 2 or 3 different Netflix movies at the State Theater. I love the fact that we're getting these kind of movies, knowing that the Cinemark is not a theater chain that will play these movies.
And it might not be a theater chain for much longer with how things are going either. So I am glad we got our local guys still kicking ass out there.
Correct.
And for me, when I come around to going to new releases, I haven't been to a new release in a long time in theaters. I'm going to the West Mall. Like if they're still going to play first run, like Godzilla vs. Kong, I'm watching in the West Mall. Like I'm not. They have the
better equipment.
Yeah, I think they have everything better.
They have the better prices. They have the better popcorn. Plus, you can go play a better arcade afterwards.
That's right.
Good answer.
All right. So that is all for Coming Soon that we had this week. Go check out our full article, Coming Soon, on backlot605.com. There's plenty of more stuff coming out to streaming, DVD, and anything else out there. Maybe some VHS tapes. I don't know. But it is all on Coming Soon on Backlot 605. But we're going to go ahead. We'll take a little break here. And when we come back, we will ask Nathan, what is the meaning of life? So you better have an answer, Nate.
Dun.
Hey, you. Yes, you listening. You like comic book movies, don't you? Of course you do. Did you know comic book movies are based off physical comic books? Well, I'm here to tell you can be one of the first readers of the brand new comic book Polarized. Polarized is about 2 superpowered brothers on the run from the law and trying to right the wrongs of their past. You can pre-order the first 20-page issue today on Polarized73.com. Get 10% off your order using promo code BACKLOT10. That's right, Polarized73.com. And get 10% off your order using promo code BACKLOT10. This goes for everything on the site, including merch. This promo ends January 31st, so don't wait. Take your first leap into the world of Polarized today.
All righty. We are back on the Backlot 605 podcast. We are talking about the final film in the Monty Python filmography, which is Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. So, The Meaning of Life, this is, like I said, the Python's last film, kind of creating their full circle, if you will, on their filmography. This is a sketch comedy-based movie. Doesn't have a full narrative like Life of Brian or Holy Grail, which we talked about previously. This is more inclined like for now something completely different, more in that vein. So this is a sketch comedy movie, came out in 1983. Unfortunately, just a few years before the death of the first Python to die, Graham Chapman, in 1989. So let's kind of jump into this. What is our first? Do you guys remember the first time watching the movie? Initial thoughts on the movie? What is your history with the Python's Meaning of Life?
I'll let Nathan go first.
I this is probably the last Python movie I ever got to. Like I saw Actually, no, I have this completely wrong. This was the second Python movie I ever saw. Right, so I saw Holy Grail first, because that's what theater would do in school. It's like prescribed to them by a doctor, and then The Meaning of Life, and that The Meaning of Life actually initially didn't really make me like Python. I was like, oh, this is overhyped, all that kind of stuff. I've grown with it. Like I've always looked back on it fondly now, and rewatching it was nice. But I remember watching it second in college because I bought it at Walmart. I got a DVD at Walmart. It wasn't the $5 bin, but it was the $10 bin, and so I remember it fondly. Some of the iconic stuff I don't like the real absurdist stuff. I'm not a huge fan of, like the fish thing. Like, where's the fish? Over there. Yeah.
It's under the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is some of the most wild stuff Pythons have done. Especially just that one skit. It just feels like the most absurd Python thing they've ever done. For me, this was the third Python movie I watched. I watched Holy Grail, Life of Brian, and then Meaning of Life was the last of those that I watched, and then went back to the Flying Circus and now for something completely different. I'll kind of put this out here right away because I do really like this movie, but I do think it's the weakest of the Pythons for theatrical movies. But if this is your weakest one, I think that's also still pretty damn good that this is your weakest one. And I think it's just because at this point in the Python's career, they were past doing just straight sketches for their movies. I think they were trying to say more and do more of a narrative. They just could not figure out one for this. And, we end up getting this, a very loose structured narrative of the meaning of life. But I think there are some of their best sketches ever. I think there are some of those most iconic stuff ever is in this.
The school sex ed scene.
Oh, it's one of the best.
So funny. It's so funny. And they're getting this one, you can really see their age. They're really starting to get older. And so I think some of the comedies also matured a little bit. So like when you see Life of Brian, when you see Monty Python, Holy Grail, that stuff was always kind of like, oh, it's a little bit more immature. It's a little bit more like just caution to the wind. Where this one, I think they're trying to say stuff a little bit more with this one. Like the salespeople are looked on so differently, and like executives and stuff like that. So it's kind of that rejection of what made them, like the BBC and all that kind of stuff. I think they tried to say more with this one, as much as like Monty Python doesn't really take a stance. They kind of took a stance on this one. I think that's one of the reasons why it doesn't feel a lot like the rest of the canon.
Right. As for me, if anybody is paying attention to our series here in terms of Monty Python movies and everything like that, the series of which is taken here is my progression of these films. Because prior to us doing the series here, the only one I had seen was Holy Grail. First time I actually watched this was yesterday. And I do have to agree with Casey in the fact that out of everything that I've watched here so far, I do have to say that this one's probably one of the weaker ones that we've got out of Python. But in terms of their humor and everything like that, you're absolutely correct. I think that if this is one of our weaker ones, it's still good, it's solid, it's still the Monty Python humor and whatnot. I struggled a little bit with the fact that we didn't have much of the narrative as we did with some of the other ones here, but it was okay.
It's refreshing in some of the sense. Like I think some of their funniest sketches, and it's not recycled by any means. Like that's
right.
We're also we got to say Terry Gilliam's some of his best directing. Knights of the Crimson, or no, Pirates of the Crimson. I forget what it's called, but I also watched this like over the last few days, and I will say I like this movie, but it took me 3 nights to watch it because I have to watch it after we just wrapped up the Snow Jam Comedy Festival, and so I'd watch it after that, and I'd only make it about a half hour, 40 minutes, and so it took me three sittings to kind of get through it, which is probably the ideal way to watch it because it's so broken up anyway. But like,
I was gonna say, is the way that they break up this film here, at least of all the films that went out, this is probably the one the easiest to be able to do that with.
Yeah. Yep. And I like the gratuity of like heaven with the angels, like some of their best scene work and like use of characters, like it was it's almost hard to recognize which them individually, so I think it's one of the last real good troop movies. And some amazing songs from Eric Idle, right? No.
Yeah.
Is it Eric Idle? Yeah, Eric Idle. Some of the best songs he's ever done, right?
This movie feels like a real kind of, for me, it feels like a great kind of finale to the Pythons, because this is one of the last things they ever did together.
That's not true.
As far as like, this is the last film. This is the last,
Spamalot is the last thing.
Live stuff together. Yeah.
Yeah. They also did that live concert after this.
Yeah, and then, but as far as like on-screen stuff, we get to see a great culmination of all the stuff they've built up beforehand, because we're getting the great sketches of Flying Circus, and I feel like we are also getting some of the things they're trying to say in Life of Brian as well. Like they bring in a lot of again their thoughts on religion and life and what is the meaning of life. But then they're also combining even more so. Terry Gilliam is doing his own thing throughout this movie. I mean, most prominently, the short film he does at the beginning, which I think we should jump to next. But then also Eric Idle has, 2-3 songs in this movie? Plus
3 songs.
I'm pretty sacred.
That's one of the immediately things that I caught right away. I was like, there's more songs in this one movie that Eric Idle got than in the entire, basically, the rest of the other movies we've watched.
Yeah. So it feels like all things that we know Python for are coming to a head in this one.
Yeah.
Even though it is maybe the weakest of their movies, it's very strange, but it feels like it is a great culmination of everything. And like I said, let's jump to that short film, because the first time I watched this, I was like, what the hell is this? Where are the Pythons? What is going on? Why is this playing? I'm like,
there's a couple of Pythons in that beginning.
But they don't show up till the second half of this short.
Because of when they get to the corporate side. I get it.
Yeah.
So when I'm first watching this, I'm like, is this some weird short movie they just put in front of Meaning of Life? What is going on here?
Yes.
It even tells you.
It is. It's Terry Gilliam got a budget to do this movie, and then they're like, well, let's just throw it on the front of this movie. And then they were trying to figure out how to add how to end the sketch where they come back in, right? And they're like, Terry's like, why don't we just have my pirates attack them again? And they were able to use the set. So the sets were already built for this short movie that he was kind of just making. And so they just sandwiched it in, and then he got to use, and apparently he used most of the budget to film this movie.
I heard the other guys weren't too happy when they heard what he was doing, because it was supposed to be an animated segment, which Terry Gilliam is most known for with the Pythons.
But he also did animate the building, right? That's So that's where a lot of the animation went through, but it was the live action around it.
And I think the other Pythons weren't happy when they heard how much he spent on this little short movie beforehand that sort of ties into later in the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's an incredible short movie to put before.
But that's why they squashed it in the middle.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, hey, fuck you, Terry.
I will say the one thing I did really enjoy about, I mean, in terms of, occasionally you see a familiar face or something like that, is Matt Frewer showing up in that beginning sequence. And if the name doesn't sound for me, it was, if you remember Max Headroom from the 80s. And he's done many different things since then and whatnot. But I immediately just see a very young Max Frewer. I'm like, oh, it's that guy. It for me, it actually kind of made me more excited for this really weird, not very. It seemed out of place because it, like you said, Casey. There's no pythons in the first half of the segment. All you literally have is a bunch of old people that are turning into pirates. I did, though it is completely kind of not in the same vein of most Python and whatnot. I did enjoy the fact that there's a little bit of a commentary to that very beginning because of how big corporate America is trying to take over everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a total Terry Gilliam thing. It's not really a Python thing. It's a Terry Gilliam thing.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
So, I mean, he's a member of the Pythons. He's obviously one of the big, he's one of the 6 guys. And I think it's kind of a very great kind of breaking up the flow of their previous movies, too. We get Terry Gilliam, who at this point, 1983, what has Terry done beforehand?
Not much. Not Python. He hasn't done Brazil.
Because he did, obviously, let's see.
I think there was maybe one theatrical release he did during this whole thing.
He did Time Bandits before this.
What time was Time Bandits?
1981.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what this starts to feel like. I mean, he did obviously Jabberwocky, which is a very Python-esque thing, but then Time Bandits is all right. Terry Gilliam's his own kind of thing at this point, and then he does this short movie in between Time Bandits and Brazil, which fits that Gilliam vibe. So I think on a short, if this is just a short movie and we're looking at it as a 10-minute short, I think it's an incredible short movie. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really fit tonally with the rest of the movie too much, but that's okay. It's just a great short movie.
The Crimson Permanent Assurance, right? The short got him the directing money for his trilogy, right? Because Terry Gilliam is one of my favorite directors, but Time Bandits, Brazil, and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen is a trilogy. I didn't know if you knew that.
I didn't know. I absolutely love all of those here, but it's just the fact that I didn't realize.
So they're the dreams of a child, dreams of a middle-aged man, and then dreams of an old man.
Oh.
So it's a lot like the Cornetto trilogy where they have a loose thread.
Yeah.
A thematic trilogy more than a narrative.
Yeah. Trilogy. Yep. So Terry Gilliam is known for that. And then it's said that the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is also sort of in that trilogy. But along with Zero Theorem, which I have yet to see, and I hope to.
If it makes you feel better, I've had Zero Theorem since it came out on Blu-ray, and I still haven't even seen it.
I also haven't seen The Holy Family, but I'm very excited for. Did he finally get The Man Who Killed Don Quixote done?
It's been released for a couple years now. It's on. Last I saw, it was available on Prime.
I'm so bad at this.
I think it got
so bad at being his best fan.
It got a really small release, like a one night only or something like that.
2018 for The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
God, I need to watch it.
All right, let's jump into the movie then, because I mean we open with, again, I don't know if this totally works. Them as a bunch of fish, kind of are the sort of loose thread of this movie.
It's weird. It's weird.
And I think even the Pythons will say we should have had a connective thread here. And I don't know, the fish stuff. It I don't know. It feels very weird. It is sort of there to connect everything, but I mean, the movie really kicks off with the miracle of birth. Obviously, the beginning of life. This is where life begins, which is, I mean, I think it's a great scene. Again, a commentary on our healthcare, commentary on how healthcare has really changed in the last decade. I looked up a little bit on the sketch. This was a Graham Chapman written sketch because he is also a licensed doctor, and so he was commenting on how much the practice has changed since he kind of left that. I love the joke of, well, what does that machine do? Well, this is the machine that goes bing. And then Michael Palin just comes up as the owner of the hospital, the higher up, and has no idea what is going on. Oh, what are we doing here? Well, she's about to deliver a baby. Oh, we can do that now.
We sold that back to the company and then are leasing it them, so it comes out our quarterly instead of our yearly budget.
I do enjoy the fact that, they come into the operating room or the delivery room and like there's nothing in there. They got to get all the most expensive equipment in there in case the administration shows up, and then like something's missing. Oh yeah, the patient, and she's tucked away behind the equipment. Oh, here she's over here.
What do I do? Excuse me? What do I do? Nothing, dear. You're not qualified. That's a great John Cleese line. Yeah, I think this is a great kind of opening sketch for this movie. I think it has again, commenting on certain things, but also has that great Python absurd humor and great one-liners in there as well. And then the movie peaks right after with, I think, my favorite scene. I think it's the best scene. It is an incredible musical number. The Every Sperm is Sacred scene is, I think, one of the Python's top 5 best scenes they've ever done, sketches they've ever done. I think it's just an incredible musical combined with the Python humor, combined with their incredible acting that all the guys have.
The most children extras you can have in a film.
This is where the budget shows up because they actually have a ton of extras and choreographed dancing in this. What are your guys' thoughts on Every Sperm is Sacred? This is the scene I commented on last week with Brian, and I was very curious your thoughts on this scene.
As when Nathan was asking about our thoughts on musicals and whatnot, I'm familiar, as we've discussed, about the fact that the Pythons like to put music in there, or at least Eric Idle likes to try to get music into the films and whatnot. The fact that we finally got a full choreographed musical number in this here.
Yeah, 3 of them.
Right, but I mean the fact that we got the weird subject matter that is completely Python-esque, but choreographed with a bunch of kids doing all this dancing and whatnot, I thought was absolutely genius. And then just the way they even just ended it with the next door neighbors talking about all the kids and whatnot. I thoroughly did enjoy this particular segment of the film.
There were I think I read on IMDb, it was like a trivia thing. It was 69 kids during the Protestant in the background.
when they're just going,
they're walking out of the
out of the door.
Yeah. Yep.
We need 70. No, trust me, it has to be this. We can't do 70 kids. We can't do 68 kids.
I think, it was 69, and I don't think it was on purpose, but I think it was very funny.
I hope it was on purpose. I do. But yeah, it's that I think that part at the end there when they're running out single file, and like I said, the Eric Idle and is it John Cleese that's part of that end of that scene?
Oh, and the next Graham Chapman.
Oh, is it Graham Chapman? I couldn't remember. I just remember the one thing I loved about it is because Eric Idle playing the wife and talking about why or what it is that they need to or what they can do that the Catholics next door can't. And she's over there going, "Oh, really?"
We've only ever had sex 2 times, and we have 2 children.
There's something about Eric Idle's ability to play a female that I think is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I think there's a reason him and Terry Jones are always the females in all the sketches. I think those 2 do it better than the other 4 probably could. And
then you don't want to get rid of John Cleese's mustache.
John probably didn't want to get rid of his mustache. Speaking of that mustache, though.
Apparently, most of the budget actually went to Every Sperm is Sacred sequence. I'm reading on IMDb right now. So, and the rest of the crew was upset that sequence cost the most money.
Well worth it.
Yeah.
Well, now we can blame Eric Idle instead of blaming Terry.
Oh
Gilliam.
no, Terry Still was the one who did that one.
Oh, I stand corrected.
Yep.
Let's go to a scene that Nate talked about before here with the great John Cleese teaching a sex education class. And I mean, this is maybe the best way to teach a sexual education class, just by showing the kids how to do it.
My favorite part is we'll leave the foreplay in the last chapter. Is that okay, dear? Yes, that's fine. He's very British.
As you see now, the penis is more or less fully erect.
I even like the fact that even before we get to that part, what part of have we talked about this? Have we talked about this?
Yeah.
He's just very astute and very like you're picturing like this is like the Harvard College educated professor teaching the Harvard kids kind of like on that kind of level, just the way he's projecting himself. And you realize the things that are coming out of his mouth are just completely just dirty.
What's wrong with a little kiss?
Why would you go before we go straight to the clitoris? My favorite part is they're actually all behaving before he walks into the room. And then as soon as he's like, oh, he's coming, they start to like throw paper and stuff like that because he expects them to like all be calmed down and stuff, but they're just like doing their homework and like.
It feels like something that maybe came up with right on set before Cleese walked in.
I think it's so funny. That's just a little detail of that in the Mighty Python stuff that it feels like that was something giggling in the writing room.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh, this is so funny, and I think it gets missed a lot. But I think this whole movie is filled with just a lot of visual humor that Monty Python is known to do, but I think they did it a lot more, like than Life of Brian, Holy Grail. I think a lot of more dialogue is done. They do a lot more visual stuff on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I don't mean to jump forward, but when we talk about fighting each other, right? When you see the giant hole ripped through the mosquito netting, it looks like it was a tiger, It's definitely not a virus. Stuff like that.
Or even like the bed coming out of
yeah. That's a $10,000, that's a $3,000 prop. Like, you know what I mean? Like somebody had to build that exactly for, and the way that the posts come down one at a time, you know what I mean? Like that was an expensive piece of scenery.
A good piece of scenery. Because I do like the fact that when we get into the perspective when the wife comes in and whatnot, then we flip basically where the camera is at. So they're just quite off of, scenes that you can't see anything gratuitous or anything like that. But then just everything as it's acted out, especially like when the kid's got the little ocarina. Mm-hmm. And he's like, today he needs to bring
put it on the table, man.
Because it's almost like the kid is like, this is my excuse to get really close to the naked lady in front of me.
Yeah, no, it's absurd.
I love Cleese's just pure joy when he gives the boy punishment, like for the rugby match. Like after the rugby match, like he has just so much pure joy of what has happened too.
You'll be on the boys' team for the rugby match. Son, no.
Let's jump to then what you were talking about, the fighting with each other. We get like three little parts here of how we deal with war. Again, this first one kind of feels like a throwback to some flying circus style of humor with Michael Palin as the instructor. Mm-hmm. So, do you guys have anything else better to do?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to hang out with my wife and kids, sir. All right, off you go then.
Really?
I would like to read my book.
Perhaps taking a movie? Yeah. Off you all go.
Yeah, I love how they do end that sketch. It's just for that, we get a few people here and there, and he's yelling, like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, but all of a sudden, I bet y'all just want to go to the movies. Yes. Well, then go.
Just marching by himself after.
I think we're forgetting the better part of those scenes was when they're in the war in the dugout, and the people are trying to do something nice for their captain.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
They buy him 2 clocks.
3. Yeah. Because they got him a watch too.
I would say, don't forget the watch.
Yeah.
And then the cake he doesn't want.
Yeah. Do you know how hard he worked on that cake? You break his heart. That cake's filled with love.
That scene is also great because it's one of the few we get. Is it all 6 pythons are in that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the few scenes of any of the movies.
I
We
don't
get
know
all
if Terry's in it. I don't think Terry's in it.
Gilliam?
Is he?
Yeah. He's not in. That's a thing I've always noticed with Python movies. He's never in sketches enough for.
Well, he's the only American.
Yeah. They're like, get the American out of here. No, I'm pretty sure he's in that one.
He just wasn't an actor. That's the thing. He was an animator.
Mm-hmm. Even though when he shows up later on with his liver getting taken out, I think he's pretty great in that scene. Which that's a great scene. And then we get to the the tiger scene, which total Python humor.
I just like how that starts off with the fact that number one, Eric Idle is just like, yeah, I can't do this today because I hurt my leg, and like, oh yeah, it everything's fine, just rest up and everything's be tomorrow. I got some news for you, sir. You're not okay.
It'll just be a virus.
No, sir, it's actually not a virus.
I was sugarcoating it. Yep. I mean, I really loved the tiger costume people, right? Trying to come up with a new excuse every time why they're in a tiger costume. I think that was very, very funny. It's the first time I think that kind of joke has been made, because that joke's been replicated a lot since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
think Eric Idle's delivery with that when they show up in the tiger costume, I think is just brilliant. I couldn't picture somebody like John Cleese trying to do that particular scene. Like, it just wouldn't have worked. So
his
I think Eric Idle
with the head too is really on point.
Exactly. Yep.
Really uses the costume well.
And I think that's one thing the Pythons do incredibly well is they know who needs to play what characters. And which of the 6 guys can play it best. Like, I think they all know their own strengths and own weaknesses. And I mean, obviously egos get in there, but then I think when push comes to shove, that most times, I would say 9 times out of 10, they're picking the right guy for the right role.
Well, and Cleese was pretty upset about not being the lead in
Brian. And in Holy Grail, I think, too.
Yeah, the Holy Grail specifically. Yeah.
But again, I can't see him playing either King Arthur or Brian.
No.
And he fits every other character in those movies perfectly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yep. That's where I think had we seen him in those roles, it would have been fine. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Graham was not my first choice, but the right choice.
Yeah. Right. No, I would have to completely agree with that. You think of how some of these guys would have been interchanged and whatnot, and would it work? Would they still been successful? Probably. But would we have gotten the same kind of tone, same kind of film that we love and appreciate today?
No.
All right, let's get to this weird scene here in the middle of the film. That weird avant-garde find the fish scene, which is maybe the strangest thing the Pythons have ever done.
I get. Do you know what? It's technically like a really well done scene. Like, technically with all the set, camera angle, all that kind of stuff. It's all forced perspective stuff, with great costumery and all that kind of stuff. I just don't give a shit. I just hate it.
I'm even to the point right now where, like, I'm just trying to remember what we're even talking about, to be honest.
It is where Terry Jones has the really long arms that he's pointing, and the guy with the big trunk nose, and
nope, I know exactly. Okay,
Graham has the corset on.
Once you said the very long arms, that's probably why. Because I tried to force this out of my brain because I did not like this particular segment.
Oh, where could the fish be? I kind of like this segment, but it also is just very strange and very weird. Maybe that's kind of why I like it. I don't know. It doesn't fit with anything. It really doesn't fit with anything the Pythons have ever done. It feels so very, very, very strange for them to do this, and almost feels like this feels like a Terry Gilliam written sketch, just because of how strange it is. And I think the Python guys didn't know how to really fit it in with this. This feels like. With how this movie's what 90 minutes, I think.
There's a documentary on Netflix about just about the Pythons in general. Mm-hmm. It's like a series. It was very good. I don't think it was a Terry Gilliam call. I think it was a little bit different things. Like I think it was Graham Chapman and somebody else.
Cleese.
I think John Cleese. Yeah, I think because they're writing partners.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's I don't think it was Terry Gilliam, if I remember correctly. But I don't remember correctly. Ever.
If people listening are looking for great Python documentaries, just go to Netflix and type in Monty Python. There's like 4, 5, 6 of them on there. I watched that series you were talking about, Nate. It's a great because each part is kind of their. I think it's 5 parts, and they do Flying Circus, and then the 4 movies and all the other parts. There's also a kind of a roundtable discussion called The Meaning of Monty Python, and they kind of focus on the meaning of life and how all of them are pretty disappointed in that movie, especially John Cleese does not like this movie at all. Everybody else is like, oh, we had some good stuff, but it's not our best thing. And Cleese is like, no, that movie sucks.
Is this the Monty Python's Almost the Truth documentary on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yep. Great documentary.
Mm-hmm. It's like a 5-part series, 4-part series,
6-part.
Yeah,
6-part. All right,
6 episodes. Looks like they're about 50 to 55 minutes each.
Really great series if you want some more Python stuff. All right, let's go to I think another we talked about with the weird find the fish segment. Another weird Python segment that feels like they're ratcheting up all the gore that they had in Holy Grail to a new level with the live liver transplant, which is I find that scene hilarious. I think it is so funny.
It's very funny.
Again, great casting. You couldn't have anyone besides Cleese and Chapman playing the two. Not even doctors. The guy's taking this guy's liver out.
You guys doctors? Heavens no.
I would have never realized that I would have gotten the Repo Men here, 40 years before I actually got them. This is where healthcare is going to end up going. Where if you have a transplant or something like that, or you can't afford a transplant, that then when they're going to come take it out of you here, by force.
Aren't you supposed to take it when people die? Well, no one's ever survived us taking their liver before.
The song that follows it right after is really the gem, right? The universe is expanding every single second, right? That's one of the best Eric Idle songs. 100% down. Like it is truly, it feels a little shoehorned, but it's so fantastic. They could have just done that, like cutaway to that with no setup, and it would have been perfect because it was such a brilliant. And I don't know if you saw, they green screened a lot of it, and that set in the soundstage must have been huge and vast, just like it. So I was very, very impressed because it was all one. It looked like it was all pretty much one cut. If I remember right, I think that's a maybe
when you're playing with green screen, it's really easy to do that too.
It's not as an actor though, especially miming a song with a little bit of dance choreography. That's kind of tough, especially with those camera motions and stuff like that. Like I don't know if you've ever been in a long shoot where you have that long extended sequence. It takes a long time in choreography to do that, and to make such a silly joke with such a technical thing. That's one of the things Monty Python does so well, though, is the technical with the comedy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This entire sequence going from the live liver transplant to the the Galaxy? Is that what it's called? The Galaxy song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That feels like a total, that was like an entire segment written for Flying Circus that they never filmed. And they're like, all right, let's bring that old sketch back. It feels like that kind of early 1970s classic Python sketch where you're going from something grotesque like this. This feels like in Flying Circus they did, the barbershop guy who was trying to murder the guy he's giving a haircut to, right into the lumberjack song. Like this feels like two very different things combining together. And I mean, this time it has an incredible punchline too, where you have Idol going back into the refrigerator he came out of, and you just have Cleese asking, "Well, can we have your liver then?" Oh, that's right. Like I think the two work only because the Pythons can make two things like that work very seamlessly.
Oh, I would have to completely agree. I mean, just the fact that we've got Eric Idle coming out of the refrigerator to go into that sequence to come back here and swing it back around. There's not many people I think could have easily pulled that off because of how weirdly obscure, completely non-referential to each other pieces that these two segments are kind of built into one.
Mm-hmm. The next segment I kind of want to touch on here is after this is the payoff to the short film in the beginning, where we get the rest of that. But then I think the next one I really want to touch on, I think is one of the better segments out of this. Again, goes from one segment into another one, is the Mr. Creosote restaurant scene, which again feels like the great visual humor from the Pythons in this. This feels like, again, everybody combining their strengths together, because the character looks like a Terry Gilliam drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Played great by Terry Jones. Again, John Cleese playing the straight man in this again.
Yeah.
Everything combining together to make one of my favorite Python sketches. And I love that he just walks in. Oh, what's going to get for you? A bucket. I'm going to throw up. That's the first thing he asks for.
The first time I saw this movie, this was my least favorite scene. It's growing on me every time I see it, but I generally have a hard time watching this one. I'm a sympathetic throw-upper or an empathetic throw-upper, whatever it is. So my gag reflex is sympathetic. So every time I see that, I just go.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Nathan, here, being said, obviously this is the first time I saw this yesterday. I'm going to even keep a straight face right now. This is probably my least favorite sketch out of the entire film.
Really?
Absolutely. I genuinely thought it's totally in the realm of what I expect out of the Pythons. But at the same time, too, it was just gross and just, I don't know. It just felt.
We also have to find the fish segment in this movie, though.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that one either. And this are one of the two reasons why I would even say is that out of all the ones that we've watched so far here, this is probably one of my least favorites of the Pythons, just because, it's very Python-esque in terms of this scene, but at the same time, too, it just felt a little much.
It's a little long.
It's long. If you would have had the guy just being because he was, an overeater or anything like that, whatever, for me, the puking thing was kind of unnecessary. You could have still had a good, funny punchline. You could have easily still had a great, funny sketch out of this here without even including the puke factor. Because you make reference in regards to the crisp at the very end. That, I for myself personally, I think that joke would have worked better if I wasn't already disgusted by the puke from beforehand.
Yeah.
It feels like the Pythons kind of this feels like a big swing for them.
Mm-hmm.
This sketch, because they've never really done gross out humor too much before.
And maybe that's another reason why I have a little bit of a problem with it, because this is this isn't your typical Python. Like I said, it's got the Python feel, but it's still not. It's not in the wheelhouse of what I've been watching for the last 4 weeks.
I feel like it has a great payoff with Eric Idle as the other waiter, and the transition into that scene. I think he has a great.
I did really love that. I did really love the like. At least we're not working for Jews. Oh my God! No! I didn't realize we were working for a racist. Like we're racist. I had no idea. Come back! I did love that, and I do really love the pointless long follow shots of Eric Idle. This is where I was born. Like this. I thought that's a good, like, it begins and ends well, right? Because the beginning is the penis song from Eric Idle, and then you also get him as the waiter, and then you follow him to his home, and then that's where they give you one of the first meaning of lives, right? Because there's meaning of lives sprinkled in, right? It's the point is there's no meaning of life. It's what you take away from it, right? So I don't know. I think that's the only thing good about the scene is the before and after of it. So
yeah, I love when he's going back to like this is where I was born, and he tells like this story of what his mom sat him down on her lap and kind of said like what you need to bring people joy and happiness and be a good person, and then he becomes a waiter.
That's why I became a waiter. Fuck you. That's what I did. That's what's my philosophy. Go.
I don't want you fucking following me.
Yeah.
Just flips out on the camera.
Get out of here. Stop following me. Yeah. The death parts. Sorry, if I could jump.
Go ahead. That's where I was going. Yeah.
The death ones are pretty good. I thought those are all pretty good. Like the salmon pate killing everybody. And people being rude to death, I think that's pretty funny. They had some good technical shots on that too. You see some animation from Terry Gilliam, right? Them going off into the cosmos, stuff like that. And then you go full circle with that first scene where they're back in heaven, where you find out that was heaven in the first place, where they have the philosophical menu. So I thought that was a pretty nice full circle kind of. It gives the appearance of a full narrative, that they're in heaven and stuff like that.
I do love the scene of Graham Chapman like running away from his death, and like how his death is a bunch of topless women chasing him off a cliff.
Yeah,
and I think that
you would like that, you pervert.
Yes. Two, it's also very funny because of Graham Chapman's own, real life. Like, yeah. Like, I don't know if this was a joke written because of his. Nope. I don't even know if the Pythons knew it at this point.
No, it's just how John Cleese would like to go.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly how it is. Surprised he didn't ask him, like, didn't force himself into that sketch.
I think he forced himself into plenty. Sorry, I don't believe John Cleese is a chauvinistic rapist, but I do think he has the ability to be.
It's the mustache, isn't it?
I just think he's just got to. Anyway, I really like John Cleese. But I think this is probably like right. Before I was, had a daughter, I was like, yeah, this scene's funny, and now it's like, come on.
It's amazing what becoming a parent will do to you, huh?
Especially if it's like I don't need to. Come on, what's with the? Yeah, all right. We get it. It's funny. Haha, naked lady. I think that part doesn't age well in PC culture, but it's still very funny. It's a funny.
And again, it feels like a flying circus type of thing. They would often throw that in the show, just topless women, just for the sake of having a topless woman on their show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you guys have the DVD version?
I had the version that I got to watch off of NBC's Peacock.
Okay.
I have the VHS version.
So in my version, Eric Idle actually does a prologue rhyme beforehand, and he talks about like, and blah 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 blah, and then it's just like, then he makes offenses like, and there's a bunch of naked ladies. We get to see the women breasts, stuff like that. And so I remembered, I had forgotten about all the nudity until that moment. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a huge plus for me on Monty Python, I guess. But
and again, I feel like this movie kind of ends on it doesn't end on a great note. It feels very lackluster, this ending of this movie.
Mhm.
Again,
are you kidding me?
Obviously the whole
Christmas in Heaven is a fantastic classical Hollywood scene.
I don't love the Christmas in Heaven scene.
I don't love all the tits, but I do love. I think Graham Chapman as a like Barry Manilow lounge singer god is fantastic, right? Like they have all of the characters that have died in all of the sketches scattered amongst the audience. I think it's a wonderful. I mean, it's been parodied since. You know what I mean? Like Family Guy uses it in their opening.
It is true.
You know what I mean? Like I think it's just such a wonderful lounge. It's reminiscent of Beauty School Dropout from Grease. You know what I mean? Like I love that lounge classic huge vibe. I mean, even it looks like the Ghostbusters kind of thing, the stairway walking down.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a fantastic, huge, big universe that they built with that scene. And it's a very fun song.
Maybe I shouldn't talk about Python endings just because none of their movies have endings half the time.
And then I loved the
do love the epilogue at the end with
Yeah.
Michael Palin as the woman who gets the card of this is what the meaning of life is. And I have it pulled up here. I'll read it off. What the meaning of life is, according to the Pythons, is try and be nice to people, avoid eating fat, read a good book every now and then, get some walking in, and try to live together in peace and harmony with people of all creeds and nations.
That's fucking
That's a great
wonderful.
Yeah.
It would be amazing if in 2021 we could have people to listen to somebody who said this in 1983.
Yeah. Or if they just would have listened to 1983.
Oh, agreed.
But
this ending, that especially that last line from Michael Palin, does feel like, yeah, the whole movie beforehand is just a reason for us to do funny little things and funny little sketches.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing you guys should actually just probably do in your own actual life, and it only takes one sentence to say, just be good people, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Do you guys have any other final thoughts on the meaning of life before we kind of wrap it up here?
I don't think I felt the actual meaning of life watching the meaning of life.
I believe it or not, I think this movie, since I watched it in college, and for those who don't know, I'm a recovering drug addict, but in college I did a lot of psychedelics, and I came to that conclusion of that's what the meaning of life is, and like on acid, and so it's shaped me as a person, and now I'm realizing I watched this movie probably 4 months before that trip where I like found out how I want to be as a person. And it's informed my entire life. And I'm just now realizing that.
I don't know how we follow that up, Casey.
I'm sorry. I'm just like I'm having this huge realization. Like we just talked about that on my podcast about like my like coming to Jesus moment on acid. And I'm realizing like the first time watching this movie was like 4 months before that. And it was essentially, I learned this lesson. Anyway, sorry, that's a tangent. We can edit that out. I don't know.
I think that's actually,
we don't edit anything out.
This movie feels like it is kind of taking us on this wild and crazy ride with ending just, like I said, with simple things that we should do in our everyday life to inform our meaning of life.
To make the world better.
There's not a grand meaning to life, is what they're trying to say.
It's life. It can be anticlimactic, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's just be good to each other. Don't eat crappy food. Educate yourself, and don't be an asshole to people. That's it.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
All right. Last question.
Under pressure. Yeah.
Last question I do have: favorite sketch from The Meaning of Life.
Oh boy.
I can start. I have mine. It's Every Sperm is Sacred. I think is my favorite sketch from this. I think it's the best one out of this film.
I probably would have to either lean towards that or lean towards the sex ed teacher, just because of the execution from Cleese and whatnot. But I do like it, the sperm song and whatnot, just because the very well choreographed, kids and everything like that. So I'd say it's probably a 50-50 between those two.
Yeah, I think Every Sperm is Sacred is very good, but I think it's not as good without the Protestant portion.
Oh, the ending with the punch at the end.
Well, it's technically a different scene, right? It breaks up in different, right? So it's a different sketch that they shoehorned in, and I think that's my favorite is the Protestant. I'm Protestant, so I could go down to the shop and pick up a little rubber thing to put on the end of my willy, and I don't even have to stop there. I could get French ticklers. French ticklers? Who's I think that's my favorite part. Because I grew up Catholic, so the Every Sperm is Sacred hit a little too close to home. So I think the Protestant thing was too funny for me. It's like, it could be fast and loose.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. People, if you are listening, like we said, The Meaning of Life is streaming on Peacock right now. It is pretty much available to rent anywhere else. If you haven't watched it in a while, give it a rewatch. I definitely think it is, especially now as I think in 2020, all of us were kind of thinking in many ways, thinking about our own lives and kind of in a way thinking of the meaning of life. I think it's a good time to revisit this movie from 1983. And like we said, go check out those Python documentaries on Netflix. I think those are great companion pieces to all the movies, the TV show as well. So go definitely check those out. But let's kind of wrap this thing up. Let people know where they can find us. If you want to find this podcast, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and we are on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Brian, where can they find us on the social media?
Oh, the social media. We can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Backlot605. Also, check us out in the South Dakota Film Community Group on Facebook. Join the conversation. We just like to talk about movies, what's going on, news, all sorts of fun stuff. So, yeah, definitely come check us out there.
Yes, and we also, if you need some more Backlot content, go check us out. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Backlot605. $1, $3, $5 tiers. We're doing extra bonus content there. You get the episodes a few days early over on Patreon. So we drop on Wednesdays on the streaming. So on Patreon, you get it on Monday. So you get it 2 days earlier than anyone else by joining even just our $1 tier. You get that early access. $5 tiers, you get our bonus episodes, which Brian, I think we're going to be talking our favorite movies of 2020 on that. So I think everybody has that to look forward to as we gush about the Adam Sandler classic Hubie Halloween #1, baby. Anyway,
sure.
Let's give a shout out to our patrons: Logan, Blake, Andy, Derek, Lou, Corey, and Darren. Thank you guys so much for helping us out on the show. We really do appreciate everything you guys do. And then last thing we do have to say is next week we are kicking off a brand new series. Python month is over. February will be here, and we're gonna talk a filmmaker that is very new to me and Brian. We have not seen a lot of his work, and we're tying this into February is Black History Month. We want to hear Black stories. We want to have guests on that have stories that's me and Brian can't necessarily say we've gone through, but we want to hear those stories. And I think one of the filmmakers that does that pretty much better than anyone else, and one that is one of the most influential of all time, is Spike Lee. So we are kicking off Spike Lee.
Oh, I love Spike Lee joints.
What's your favorite Spike Lee movie, Nate?
Chirac is really good. I think Do the Right Thing is obviously the one, but The Black Klansman was probably one of his best films. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they gave him the Academy because of the the response the year before, but I truly believe it's one of his best films. So those would be my top 3 of the Spike Lee joints. I'm excited to see Bamboozled. I haven't watched that yet. It's on the Criterion Collection. I haven't ordered it yet, but I hope to soon because I would like to see that one too. But
yeah, we're kicking it off next week with Do the Right Thing. I think that's a great way to kick off February with Spike Lee month. Like I said, I have one Spike movie under my belt is all, and that's his latest of Five Bloods. So this will be a great learning curve for me in the next month.
one of the first movie shoe crossovers ever. Right. So have you guys seen Do the Right Thing? No. So his Jordans get scuffed. And later after the movie, they came out with Jordans that had the scuff.
Oh, too funny.
That's awesome.
Like it's kind of a sneakerhead movie too, which is kind of fun. So as a sneakerhead, I really appreciate that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I unfortunately I'm a big fan because of what he does in the movies he's made and whatnot, but it's been a completely gray area for me because I've only seen now The Five Bloods and the 25th Hour, and to be able to go in and be able to have the reason I need to sit down and watch these, not because I have to, but not because I have to, but now I want to, and now I finally have that opportunity. So I'm definitely looking forward to February.
Yeah. All right. Before we go, Nate, where can the people find the Town Crier Podcast again? One more time.
At Town Crier Pod on Instagram, but you can find it on anywhere you get podcasts. Really, we're using the Anchor app, so if you go to Anchor, you can go to iTunes. I think we're everywhere but Stitcher. So, and I'll figure out how to do that soon. But check it out. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nathan Hults. If you're looking for me on Facebook, it's at Nathan Hults Comedy. Like my page. I try to put up funny content pretty regularly. I've also got some shows coming up here. While this is coming out, I'll be in Rapid City the week this comes out on Thursday. The 28th, I'll be at the Dublin Pub, hopefully, assuming everything goes all right. And then on the 20th of February, I'll be in Gillette, Wyoming. On the 26th and 27th, I'll be in Great Bend, Kansas. I'll be hosting, or I'll be opening for the very great Josh Alton for that show. So
nice.
Awesome. Go check out all of Nate's work, and obviously we will have Nate back on the show. We love talking movies with Nate, and go check out his work. But yeah, so again, Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys. I always love coming on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. This was a blast. So for Brian Mensing, I am Casey Kelderman. We will check y'all out next time on the backlot of South Dakota. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.